Hello and welcome to the channel. So behind me here is my Kubota BX1870 subcompact tractor. I've owned the tractor now for about 8 years. In fact, I recently posted a video of completing the 200-hour maintenance. So in this video, I wanted to concentrate a little bit more on my experiences with the tractor and go ahead and give it a full 8-year review. Now, this is the 70 series BX model, which is the previous generation. The new Kubota BX models are the 80 series, and while they've added a few nice convenience features to the new tractors, fundamentally they haven't really changed all that much. So the BX18 is Kubota's 18 horsepower entry-level subcompact tractor. It's a little bit smaller in dimensions and puts out a few horsepower less than the next model up. And while a lot of dealers would like you to believe that there's a big functionality difference between the 18 horsepower and a 21 horsepower tractor, I haven't really found that to be the case. The primary functionality that you can't get on the BX18 is Kubota's backhoe. Now, I haven't had a strong need for a backhoe in the 8 years I've owned the tractor, but I guess if I did in the future, there are a few aftermarket options I could consider, or I guess I could just rent one as well. Now, I primarily bought this model due to cost. The other manufacturers don't really offer an entry-level model like this, and at the time, Kubota was offering some really great discounts. Now, under the hood here is a Kubota diesel 3-cylinder engine that puts out 18 horsepower peak and 33.1 foot-pounds of torque. Now, that's more torque than you'll find on other 18 horsepower diesel tractor engines, and the new models have the same engine. However, on the new models, the max horsepower rating has been reduced from 18 to 16.6 horsepower. Now, I don't know why the ratings were reduced, but I will say that the PTO horsepower remains unchanged at 13.7 horsepower. So this tractor has a 2-speed hydrostatic transmission, as a 4-wheel drive. And over here, just behind my left foot, is a pedal. That's to allow me to manually engage the rear locking differential. Now, the 4-wheel drive plus the locking differential has prevented me from getting stuck in the mud and the snow numerous times. And the 2-wheel drive tractor really just wouldn't do very well on this property. Now, up here is the LA203A front end loader and a 48-inch bucket. Now, I have a couple of aftermarket hooks installed just to help me secure loads a little easier with a rope or a chain. And I also have down here installed a quick attach coupler. This helps me to quickly and easily swap out the bucket for a 60-inch snowplow blade. Now, this front end loader does not have the highest lift capacity on the market, but I've never really had any issues with lifting up a full bucket full of dirt, sand, rock, or firewood. And really the only limitation I've seen with this front end loader is when I've tried to pull out bigger tree stumps or roots. Now, the tractor also has a mid-mount PTO, and this is the 54-inch mower deck that I bought with the tractor. This is a really good quality mower deck. It cuts grass really nicely, and it's easy to maintain. I've actually completed jobs with this mower that were really better suited for a brush mower, and I haven't had any issues with it at all. Now, back here is a standard Category 1 3-point hitch. Now, I currently have a drawbar and some suitcase weights attached for ballast, but I also have a 4-inch chipper that I installed back here, and that's really the only implement that I've used with this tractor on the rear PTO, but it drives that 4-inch chipper without any issues at all. Okay, so before I talk about what I like and dislike most about the tractor, let me give you an idea of what I'm actually using the tractor for most frequently. So most often I'm using it to move and level out landscaping materials such as topsoil, gravel, or wood chips. And I also use it a lot to clear out sections of property, which usually means I'm pulling out smaller tree stumps and roots. I also use it to move around logs and to move firewood and tree branches, and also to chip tree branches. Now, this tractor is also sort of a backup for my primary riding mower, so I use it on occasion to mow the lawn, and I have a horse field on the other side of the property which I cut once or twice a year, and I most often use this tractor to cut that field. Now, in the wintertime, if we get enough snow, I also use it to plow snow off of my driveway and the adjacent road. Okay, so let me talk about some of the things I like most about the tractor. And the first one is overall versatility and capability. You know, when I was shopping for a new tractor, I heard more than once that 18 horsepower wasn't going to be enough, but I think I thoroughly debunked that theory. You know, if you look at the older tractors that were driving a front end loader and a belly mower like this one, they were often putting out only 12 to 15 horsepower and oftentimes a lot less torque than this Kubota diesel engine. And I've been really impressed with the amount of work that I've been able to accomplish with this little tractor. And when I have a big pile of dirt or gravel to move, I can usually move it in less time than I expected. It's been able to pull heavy loads and to cut really tall weeds, and basically it's done everything that I've asked of it. It's been so versatile that it's really become the most indispensable piece of equipment on my property. Okay, so the next thing I really like about this tractor is the reliability. The tractor has been completely reliable, and it seems to be made with high quality parts. I haven't had any issues or any failures of any parts whatsoever. I even have the original starting battery, which is now 8 years old, still starts the tractor in the dead of winter. Okay, so the next thing I really like about this tractor is its durability. Now, I've worked the tractor pretty hard over the last 8 years, and I've only managed to break 2 things. Both were my fault. I once backed into a tree at night and ended up breaking the tail light lens, and I also got a tree branch stuck up in here on the ROPS knob and broke it in half. I actually fixed that with some JB Weld, and it worked out pretty well. And also, when I was shopping around for a tractor, I was looking at the John Deere 1023E, and I noticed that even though that tractor is physically larger than this tractor, it actually weighed almost exactly the same. Now, I think that's because that John Deere is using plastic on several components, like the hood and the fenders, where Kubota is using steel. Now, I remember having a long tractor from John Deere that had a plastic hood, and I noticed right away that it got scratched really easily, and that made the lawn tractor look a bit older than it actually was. So that's not really a deal breaker for me, but I guess if I'm going to have the tractor in the brush and trees, I really prefer to have a steel hood and steel fenders. Now, another thing which I really like about this tractor is its small size. I was once asked by someone if I wished that I had bought a larger tractor, like a mid-size tractor, and the answer was honestly no. This size of tractor is actually more useful on my property than a larger tractor would be, because I'm able to squeeze through trees and into tight spaces. Also, the smaller size means that the tractor is more nimble when I go to cut the grass. Now, another thing I appreciate about this tractor is the fact that the routine maintenance is pretty straightforward, and a lot of the components are easily accessible. For example, the shroud here around the engine and this front panel here, they're both easily removed without using any tools, and that provides access to a lot of the maintenance items. Also, the engine oil in this tractor, it's the easiest I've ever had to change. The drain plug is super easy to access without raising up the tractor or even getting onto the floor. Now, one advantage of having a small diesel tractor is fuel efficiency. This tractor really doesn't burn much fuel at all, especially if I compare it to my gas-powered garden tractor. That tractor is smaller and is less capable, but burns more fuel. So that means that I don't have to refuel this tractor nearly as often, and it's costing me less money to operate. Now, another thing which I really like about this tractor is the total cost of ownership, including resale value. Now, as I already mentioned, the tractor doesn't burn a lot of fuel. It hasn't cost me anything in repairs, with the exception of having to replace this tail light lens here, and it really does have an amazing resale value. You know, when I was first looking to buy a tractor, I was actually looking at used BX models, but I quickly found out that the used models cost almost as much as a brand new one. So if I want to sell this tractor in the near future, I expect I should be able to get most of my money back. Okay, so on to the dislikes. Now, there aren't any things that I really hate about the tractor, but there are a few things that could be better. The first has to do with stability, and like most subcompact tractors, if you're on uneven terrain, you have to be really careful when you're lifting a heavy load, or the tractor can get a bit tipsy. You also have to be really mindful about rear ballast. Now, the fact that this tractor has a little bit smaller dimensions and a little bit smaller tires than the other subcompact tractors probably makes this one a little bit worse than the others. Now, one thing that could be better on this model is the display panel. If I turn on the key here, you can see there's an LCD display to show the fuel and the temperature. Now, it's visible now, but in the direct sunlight or when this panel gets dirty, it's really hard to make out those numbers. Now, this is really specific to the 1870 because the other models in the 70 series, they had analog displays here, and all the new tractors have analog displays as well. Another thing which I don't exactly love is the placement of the front end loader controls here on the right side of the tractor. It always seems to be in the way when I'm trying to get onto the tractor or exit the tractor from this side. Now, maybe it wouldn't be a problem if I quit drinking beer. But anyway, this is really only an issue on the older models. On the newer models, this control here has been moved to the rear fender there where it should be. Now, I did mention that the belly mower for this tractor is a good quality unit, and that is true, but it's also difficult to attach at times. Now, that's been addressed on the newer tractors when they introduced a drive-over mower deck, but I can't really say if that's a better solution or not because I haven't really used those. Now, likewise, these hydraulic connections here can be a bit difficult to attach and detach. Whenever I'm putting on or removing the front end loader, there's really just not a lot of room for the hand to get in through there. And they have also addressed that with the new model tractors. But again, I don't know if that's a better solution or not. I have heard a lot of issues with the new design leaking. And not long after I bought the tractor, I started noticing cracks in these little rubber boots on the steering arms. Now, the little joints underneath are still in good shape after 8 years, but it's something that I have to keep an eye on, and I think it's something they could have done better. Another issue which I observed right after I bought the tractor is I started getting a little bit of paint peel back here behind the seat. Now, this isn't really a big deal here, but this whole strip here peeled right off over the years. Okay, so let me see if I can summarize my thoughts on this tractor. You know, I've used this tractor for so many more things than I had expected. It's always performed well, hasn't caused me any trouble, and is the cheapest new subcompact tractor that I could find. Now, I expect to get a lot more use out of this tractor, but I guess if I had to buy a brand new one today, I would look at the new versions of this particular model. So that's about all I have to say about this tractor, and we'll see you next time.